Welcome to the Speed and Kolor Season 1 wrap-up with your host, Bruce Weiss, and special guest, Mr. Patrick Lambie. Enjoy.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of Speed and Kolor. Actually, what should be the final episode of Season 1. Episode number 26, if everything works out the way it should. We'll wrap up this first season. So to do that, I invited a good friend of mine to come and help me out here, and you may have seen him on previous episodes, but if not, this is Mr. Patrick Lambie. Patrick is a journalist. He writes for a couple different magazines. He's a very talented photographer. He's a test rider extraordinaire in high demand by all kinds of companies, including Harley Davidson and Royal Enfield and a bunch of others. So, good all-around guy, good guy to know. And I asked Patrick to join us so that we could have a conversation and he could lead the conversation in this season wrap-up. And I did tell him that no question was out of bounds. Everything was fair game. So it's going to be interesting to be on this side of things and see what he has for me. Patrick, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Bruce.
Appreciate it.
Well, and first of all, thank you for the intro. I'm going to get you to follow me around everywhere I go now and introduce me. But no, this is going to be fun. And
yeah.
So let's jump right into it.
Sure.
So, I mean, I've known you for a long time. You're a talented builder. We've photographed a couple of your builds and everything.
Thank you.
And then you jumped into Speed and Kolor. So what was the inspiration that kind of drew you to creating Speed and Kolor?
I wondered if you would ask that question because, of course, it's you. Okay. You were the guy who said, you know what you need to do? You need to start a podcast.
Oh, wow.
So for everybody out there, this is the guy responsible for you having to put up with this. So yes, you sowed the seed, and as I have mentioned before, I did my research. I wasn't so sure that it was a great idea at first, but I did my research, and I thought this is something that maybe I could do. And because we're talking about the season and season wrap up, I will say that I've gotten more comfortable with it. I enjoy it, and I think it is a good idea. And so I'm happy with it, and I'm glad you brought it up when you did.
I actually forgot I did that. So you said you had to get comfortable. What are some of the things you had to get, the specific things you had to get comfortable with?
Oh boy, I don't think anybody loves hearing their voice or seeing themselves on a device or on a TV set or anything. It's definitely an adjustment. You have to get used to it, and I'm sure there's people out there who dislike me greatly. I don't always like myself when I see myself on screen, but I'm sure too that there are people out there who are comfortable with me and who enjoy it, and of course it's more about the guests, but there has to be a host, and so that part of it is good. I'm sure we're going to get into more of the details later, but I right up front, it is a heck of a workload. Anybody who does this, boy, you've got my respect. Whether you stick with it or not, just trying it, I think has great merit, great value. But it's very demanding. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've learned a ton, but as I say, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm pretty much a one-man band. I'm the camera guy, the sound guy, the editing guy, the host guy. I pretty much do it all, as well as the social media and all of that stuff. So it is a load.
Cool. So episode 26,
Yes.
You've done 25 before.
Yes.
Out of those, and hopefully no one gets offended of the other 24, but who was your favorite guest this season, and why in particular?
So favorite guest, and there's been some good ones, and I hope that everybody out there feels the same way. There have been some really good ones. You know, some of the highlights, and I don't mean to leave anybody out. And you know, every episode has been fun, and everyone has been a step towards getting to season 2, and you know, this thing growing. But I would say, you know, notable guests, really enjoyed Steve Grover. That one was a lot of fun. The young guys at Queen Street Moto, oh my goodness, we had a lot of fun at Bad Living. Interviewing those guys, just such characters, and rolling the bikes in, and the logistics of the whole thing was really a lot of fun. And I think the cool thing there, and there were actually a couple people who commented on the YouTube channel that it was so good to see young guys into, in this case, the chopper culture, but the custom motorcycle culture. And even though, you know, they're young, they're getting started in their careers, they can't afford, well, they don't think they can afford Harleys, which they probably can't. Realistically, it's probably out of reach for them. But they can afford metric choppers, and man, they're riding Hondas and Yamahas and building them, and it's amazing what you can do. And I think we'd all have to agree that, you know, that Honda Shadow, that thing's going to run forever. So anyway, they were a lot of fun. There were lots of people along the way. Man, who else am I thinking of? Oh, it's been such a blur. But the one guy who really, really stands out is Kurt, Dirty Customs. Kurt is such a cool guy. He and I guess maybe he and I connected a bunch of different levels. And I love the grassroots approach. I love that he's a family man. You know, he's closer to my age. He's not as old as I am, but he's closer to my age. And he's just such a good guy, and so philosophical and everything. I really, really enjoy any time I get with Kurt. So if I had to pick just one, that one would be just a titch ahead of the others.
Very cool. Now, you mentioned the young guys with the metric choppers and everything.
Yes.
Which, I'm going to skip ahead on my questions here. You've traveled a lot this year. You've been out to Ontario to bike shows. You've been down to South. So a little bit about where did you travel to, but also what trends did you see? And are the trends different than you see maybe down in the US as opposed to Ontario versus bike nights in Calgary? It's kind of an open-ended question, but you've done a lot this year.
That's a good one. There's a lot of material to cover there. So what did we do? We went to Born Free in California, and that is, I guess I'll say, and I think you know this, but for the people who watch or listen to the podcast, a part of this for Karen and I is the ability to travel in retirement. So to recap that quickly, man, I'm going to get way off track. I just know what I'm going to do.
I'll bring you back.
I'm going to do a Donald Trump and do the weave here or something. But anyway, no. So I'm about a year, give or take, when this airs, I'll be about a year away from retirement. And this is something that I would like to do in my retirement. And Karen and I would like to travel and use Speed and Kolor as part of that travel. So that could all work out really well. So testing it this year, getting out and traveling some was really good. So we went down to Born Free, California, and we met with the Ives brothers and did an interview there. And I'm not going to say much about it because I'm struggling to put that episode together. I'm afraid of not doing it justice, but I also want to get the story out, and I'm struggling a little bit getting the right format, but I am going to get that one out. Well, you may see it before you see this one, so we'll see how that works out. But we went down there, saw the Ives brothers, went to Born Free, met the folks at Choppers Magazine, stuff like that, did some networking. Really, really good. Born Free is, I think that might be sort of the holy grail. That is the event to go to, I think. And it was tremendous again this year. And the weather was fantastic. What I have to do the next time we go is I have to get a motorcycle down there with me. Because riding out through the canyon and everything, man, I see all those guys out there, and we followed one guy who was obviously a builder, and he had people hanging out of his minivan with cameras and everything, and they were doing footage of him going down the highway. It was crazy. So anyway, we went to Born Free. We did, lots of local Calgary stuff, and then we went down to Ontario to the Bad Livin' Roadshow. Yeah. And the Bad Livin' Roadshow used to be, what was it called? Freedom or something like that. And that show disappeared in 22, I think it was. So there was a break in 23, and and that was another really good episode, actually, Lee Sipes. Boy, oh boy, so much respect for this guy. He had this vision to put on Bad Livin', and the things he put together, the giveaway bike and the sponsors and the stuff that he brought together, and I wasn't sure what I was going to see when we got down there, and it was fantastic. There was a huge campground. The event was held at the Frontier Ghost Town or whatever it's called. I met the owner of the place. He's a super cool guy. But they've used it for movies and all kinds of stuff, and they use it for weddings and all kinds of different events. And huge campground, the ghost town, the buildings and everything were just an excellent backdrop. It gave it a real flavor. The turnout was amazing. And Lee Sipes, that guy, he was in control the whole weekend. And I'm so impressed with him. He had control of the event. You could always find Lee. He's a big guy. He's a real tall guy, and he wears a hat, and boy, you can find him no matter what. But he did such a good job of keeping everything rolling, and the bands, and just, he was the orchestrator, and kept it all together. And I never heard a bad word about Lee. I never saw anybody challenge him on a decision or anything else. It was just, everybody respects him, and he had control of it. So that was a really cool event. We enjoyed it a lot. We are off to Friday the 13th, which we'll do without a bike. So what did I learn going to Bad Livin'? Boy, oh boy, driving 6,500 kilometers was a whole bunch more fun 35 years ago. It is tough, and Karen loved part of it. She hated part of it too, though. I think the problem, Patrick, is we were on a schedule, and we had to get places, and it meant we had to push, and we had to drive hard. And Karen has said, if we had time to stop and look at a lake or look at a historical thing or have a nice lunch or whatever. But that trip was just go, go, go. And she flew home, so it wasn't quite as bad on her. It was hard on me. It was a lot of driving. So we're going to try and avoid that. Next year for Bad Livin', I think what we'll do is we'll ship the bike. It's actually worth it to ship it and fly. Because, by the time you pay gas and hotels and everything else on the drive, 3 days there, 3 days back, you can ship a bike for half of that price or less, right? So that was kind of cool. We really enjoyed that. And now we're off to Friday the 13th without a bike, just to go down and record a couple episodes with some people. Jeff at Perth County Moto will swing out to Stratford and see him. And then we have to go tag up with 905 Rob, who does most of the chassis work for the Queen Street Moto crowd. And we'll go have a talk with him, so that'll be fun. As far as trends, I am really in love with the chopper scene. And chopper people are so cool. They really are. They're a cut above. The bikes are so cool. It's that retro. There's something about a chopper and the freedom to build and the freedom to ride, and everybody just seems to get so much enjoyment out of them. And it's a really great part of the custom culture. And as far as trends, huge chopper following at Born Free, obviously. And with the invited builder deal and bikes being built just for the show and stuff like that. Really, really good. Born Free, again, is probably the event you need to see. But Bad Living, I could not believe the choppers. And it wasn't until we went for a walk out through the campground and realized, there was the show area with the invited builders and the show bikes over there. But the campground was a show all on its own. It was just a tent and 2 or 3 choppers, and a tent and 2 or 3 choppers. And beautiful stuff, narrow, long, you name it, bobbers, all kinds of stuff. And I think we don't see that in Calgary. There seems to be a lot of bagger stuff in Calgary. A lot of Harley, but a lot more towards the bagger, touring kind of genre. But not a lot of choppers in Calgary. I don't know how many hardcore choppers you could really pull together in this area. And I think the biggest thing is population and availability of used bikes. Again, in California or in southwestern Ontario, there's bikes galore. There's Harley Davidsons up the wazoo. We got a lot of Harleys in Alberta, but they're typically, or not typically, there may be a newer era of bike, and maybe we just don't quite have. Well, of course, other than Kurt, who probably owns half of the good ones in Alberta, his brother owns the other half. But yeah, we maybe just don't have the base of people and the base of old bikes to really get that chopper crowd. But if I have any influence on it, we'll see more choppers in this area.
Very cool. The people, now, historically, there was a very specific crowd that was focused on chopper building and everything, and you're actually, you're not covered in tattoos. You're not. And you mentioned like these young guys in Ontario. Are you seeing a shift in who's at these shows and who's interested in actually building? Are you seeing a shift in that?
Yes. So very interesting. I thought, and it's true, there's a lot of chopper folks who are close to my age, around my age, some older. So there are older, and there is definitely, a rock music kind of, got a fly going there. There's a rock music kind of thing going on. lots of ZZ Top and that kind of stuff, and even going as far back as the Doors and all that kind of stuff. So there is that crowd, but then there's this crowd which Lee Sipes would be typical of, or a good example of, where maybe I'm going to guess 20 years younger than me.
Okay.
And the music is very different. There was a lot of punk at Bad Living.
Cool.
And I wasn't expecting it. I really was not thinking that was going to be that punk, hard, crazy dancing style, whatever that is. There was a lot of that at Bad Living. So that's kind of the center crowd to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is definitely a young person crowd, and that would be like the Queen Street guys. And there's a lot more than just the Queen Street group out there. So you do have, and locally here, Leon, I think, is his name. He's got a real cool Sportster chopper, hangs out at Ill-Fated Customs. So there are some young guys here as well, but there's definitely those three groups, and I haven't figured out what music the young guys are listening to yet. I haven't got that one down, but I know that those guys in the center are listening to that headbanging punk kind of stuff, and Karen and I were going, really?
You talked a lot about guides. Any female builders that you came across at any of these shows?
Not nearly enough.
Okay.
Not nearly enough. And I mentioned it on a show previously. I don't get it. There are a few gals riding choppers and a few building their own. I guess there's more than a few. They're out there. They're not as prominent's not the right word, but you don't see them as much as you see the guys.
Okay.
And that doesn't concern me. That interests me because I don't know why that is. I think the gals could build wonderful stuff, and there's so many female welders, fabricators, painters, Shayna Guy, Hot Rod Jen. There's so many who do really, really good work, but we're just not seeing them up there with the guys. And I don't know, Born Free last year, was there an invited builder who was a female? I don't think there was. They didn't stand out. Now, there was one bike there that was a female deal, but I don't know who the builder was.
Okay.
So, I'm not a we have to have 6 females and 6 guys kind of thinker. That's not where I'm at. But gee whiz, I would love to see, 3, in a group of 15, I'd love to see 3 or 4 or 5 female built bikes. And do gals like choppers? Well, my gal likes choppers, so I would have to say that some gals do. Choppers are cool. What can I say? Women should like them. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. And maybe with the young guys, maybe that'll have some influence. I know Karen's not going to come out to the garage this weekend and start building one, so we're going to have to find them somewhere else.
No, I was just curious, because you have been to so many shows. So you've also shot or recorded your podcast at a whole bunch of different locations. Some here in the garage, you've been on location, you've been in shops, which was the fun? Like, I know everyone brings its own environment and challenges and opportunities, but which was the funnest episode to film or create this year?
No, that one's easier than I thought it was going to be. Definitely Bad Living.
Okay.
So much fun. Outside, fresh air. Bad Living was actually really cool because it kind of swelled my head a little bit. It kind of thought it was cool. What happened is we had the Queen Street guys sitting there, and we had the Speed and Color tent up. You've seen our tent, canopy, whatever you want to call it. So we had that set up, and we had the director's chairs under there, and we all got together, and we had the bikes behind us, and a crowd, not big, okay, not Donald Trump style crowd, but a small group formed outside, around the front of us, and they were watching, and at first they were saying, "What's going on?" And then somebody said, "Oh, it's the Queen Street guys on Speed and Color," and they said, "Oh, this is the podcast. Oh yeah, there's the guy from the YouTube." And a couple of them had watched the show and recognized my face, but having somewhat of an audience was a totally new experience. So that made it fun, and like I say, we were outside. It was all really, really good. The weather was fantastic. It was great. And of course, what was best of all of it is when I got home and uploaded all the footage and got the files off of the mixer and everything. We captured everything. We hadn't forgotten to turn on this camera or to do this, or have we got a flashing? Oh,
I looked right away. I said,
So we didn't forget to turn on a camera or the voice recording, and everybody's mic worked, and it didn't take a whole bunch of crazy editing to try and fix something. So overall, that one was really a lot of fun to put together, and that's when I felt like, okay, I'm getting this. I'm not going to say I've got it, but I'm getting it.
Okay, well, that's actually a really good segue. So you're, 26 episodes.
Yep.
You started as a neophyte of podcasting to aspiring podcasters who might be listening or watching. What did you learn? And from that, what advice would you give them?
Wow. So first off, the toughest part of doing this is audio.
Okay.
Absolutely, hands down, the toughest part of this is audio. And I can see now why there's so many YouTube videos on getting the right equipment for your podcast.
Okay.
And of course, it's different for a podcast only. So let me jump on my soapbox here for a second, because I really need to address this. This term podcast. So Ben Hammersley coined that term. Ben was a journalist. He coined that term back in 2004, which is the internet was new in the mid-90s. Things were coming along. People were blogging, and then people shifted to audio blogging, and the iPod came out, and iPods were perfect for audio blogging, for listening to audio blogs. And that's when Ben came along and said, "Oh, it's a podcast."
Wow.
Okay? So that's where that comes from. The issue I have is it's like we haven't figured out that we have something that is different from audio blogging, that being video.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody, and Buzzsprout, the people who host podcasting, I deal with them, love them, great service, everything else. They do not understand that there's podcasting and then there's this video thing. YouTube does not understand that there is something called a podcast, which is audio only. And then there's something else, and we haven't given it a name yet. And YouTube, I noticed the other day, I watched one of their instructional videos. YouTube has even gotten to the point where they're referring to it as a podcast with eyes optional. What the hell is eyes optional? That's video, man. So you may have noticed I've made an effort to call videos tubecasts. And I don't care what we call them, right? I just kind of figured if Ben Hammersley came up with podcast, then if you're doing a video version, YouTube is the tool these days, hands down. So why not call it a tubecast? But if somebody has a better name than that, I don't care if we want to call it a Shirley or it doesn't matter to me. But I think we have to recognize that there is an audio thing called a podcast and a video thing that you put on your YouTube channel. YouTube just brought in podcasts, which they kind of wanted to fit in with music, but because they don't understand what this thing is, they don't know what to do with it. And if you select a YouTube podcast, which may show up on your homepage, what they do is they play the podcast with the artwork, the cover art, as the video. So you can sit down and watch an hour of the Speed and Color cover art with the audio track, and think that Bruce screwed up and didn't get video for that episode. So I really think the industry, Buzzsprout, YouTube, come on, folks, get your shit together. We got to figure this out, okay? It's two different things. That said, I think the YouTube is far more popular than the podcast. So I think if anybody's getting into this, I would recommend the process that I use, which is I record full video and audio of every episode we do. I save, once it's edited, I save the audio as my podcast, and I save the video and audio as my YouTube video. And I separate the two, but they are exactly the same episode. It's just that on the podcast, eyes are not optional.
Right.
Okay? It is audio only. And I think that works really well. Like I say, I just wish that the industry would figure out that it's a podcast and whatever we're going to call the video thing. Okay. So that's what I would say there. If you're starting out on this, podcasts are good, and that's where, sound quality. Now I know why everybody talks about sound quality. If you are going to produce an audio-only format, a podcast, then you want to have really rich voices. You want to have rich sound. Those podcasts like Crime Stories, whatever, they're not popular just because of the content. They sound good, right? They're very entertaining without having to see something. Not sure if Speed and Color is that entertaining without video. But anyway, some people listen to the podcast. But the YouTube, I think, is where novices, amateurs, if I can use that word, can be more expressive, can get their message across better, and without having to get that rich quality of sound. That's the advice I would give. And I'll tell you too, getting good video is really not that challenging for this kind of thing. For shooting photos like you do, stills, making something look good, there is definitely an art to that. And you can get more artistic with your YouTube video, but you don't have to.
I did like how your voice dropped about an octave when you were talking about the rich sound.
I went into my podcast
that was
voice.
very good. So you've been using increasingly a lot of social media.
Yes.
You've started doing reels, and I'll probably get the terms wrong, but you've relied on it more and more. Been very creative with it. So again, for people who are, wanting to start their own tubecast, podcast, call it whatever. What are your thoughts on when and how to utilize social media?
Well, so I've been told I'm doing it all wrong, and that's okay. When I showed up at the racetrack with my '66 Falcon and a Pro Stock hood scoop on it that extended all the way to the front of the hood, I had several people tell me that that's not the way that hood scoop was supposed to be used. And then I went out and that car ran, probably a full second quicker than anybody thought it could. I've always sort of bucked the trend and done it my way. I've been told that you have to do Facebook. And I'm going to tell you, I had a bad experience with Facebook. I do not like that you can't undo anything. There is no real support for Facebook. I don't like the order of things. It's not chronological. It doesn't make any sense to me. I just don't like the whole thing. And I'll tell you, my background is electronics. I was a systems analyst at one time. So I do understand a little bit about computers and a little bit about programming. And I have seen over time the thing that happens is people keep wanting to build the system that does everything. And Elon Musk is talking about it now. He wants the everything app, right? It's a wonderful vision or dream. I saw so many systems that we tried to develop where we allowed the users to come in and say, oh, but it would be so cool if it ran this report. Oh, okay, we'll add that in. Oh, it'd be so good if it did this analysis. Oh, let's add this on. And this thing gets unwieldy. It gets out of control. You're trying to do way too much. I think Steve Jobs and his vision for the iPhone and everything has shown us that specific apps are not a bad thing. We're all very good with specific apps now. You want an app to do a layout in Instagram, there's a layout app. And if you want a boomerang effect, there's a boomerang app. The common ground is the device, right? And that really works well. And yet, for as well as it works, we still have Facebook trying to be your friend communication device, but also tie this in and bring this in and make it do this and have calendars and this and that and bring all this in. And I just think that Facebook has gotten totally out of control. I don't think they even have a handle on what it is anymore. I'd love to ask Mr. Zuckerberg what he thinks Facebook is. It'd be really interesting to get that input from him. But anyway, Facebook, I just don't like it. I think it's outdated. I think it's grown way beyond what it was ever intended to be. I don't think it's effective, and I don't like it. And because I am not doing this to support my family or to prove anything, I simply choose not to use Facebook. And that's all there is to that. I am an Instagram guy. I love Instagram. Instagram makes sense to me. Instagram has a chronological flow, and I follow a select group of people who post the things that I want to see, and I put content out that is for a specific demographic or target audience, and I don't need to go beyond that. I don't need for 10 million people to see my stuff with 9,999,000 whatever who don't give a crap or it doesn't make any sense to. I don't care. If I get to 1,000 people who really like what I do and it makes sense to them, perfect. That's a good thing. So social media, I'm an Instagram guy. Not great. I shouldn't say that. I don't use stories as much as I should yet. I do like reels. Photos are still good if you have quality photos, if you have good photos. What is really cool is YouTube Shorts. Because YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels are very, very similar. Okay. The time, a short can't be more than 60 seconds at this point, and I think a reel can be 90, and I thought I saw something recently where now you can go up to 3 minutes. But my approach is Reels and Shorts are 60 seconds or less. That allows me to edit one short video, and use it in both places. Okay. So that's what I'm doing social media wise. I haven't entered into TikTok or Threads or X or any of that stuff yet. Again, it's about timing, and Patrick, I am not that it shows in terms of weight loss, but I am running my little tuchus off trying to keep up with everything here. And I just don't know that I could add on anything else until I hit that magic time of retirement. Okay. And then things will get better. So
viewers and listeners of Speed and Color, don't send Bruce Facebook invites or whatever. He's not going to friend you. What challenges have you come across that maybe were just out of the blue or you didn't expect? Again, I'm thinking you're now the experienced professional, and maybe some of the people listening or viewing are looking to kind of learn from what you've experienced.
Wow. Yeah. Challenges. The time is a challenge. We've covered that. That's a huge challenge for me. And I don't know that that's unexpected. I think anybody with a little bit of common sense could have seen that one coming. The audio, as I say, that was very challenging. That caught me off guard. I really didn't think that audio would be as tough as it turned out to be. So that was a challenge. Editing, those things, I knew that there was going to be a learning curve there, and I kind of knew what to expect. So they certainly weren't surprising. I don't think there's anything else that I would say really caught me off guard. If anything, I might say that there's some things that were interesting or continue to be interesting in doing this. And, if you're jumping into this and giving it a try, which if you got something to say and you want to do something like this, I would definitely say give it a try. Don't be shy. Get out there. Put yourself out there. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, it's okay. You'll learn something in the process. But an example, I was having trouble with a certain video, uploading it or whatever it was, and I called Apple to find out what I was doing wrong. And we wound up talking about it, and they said, "Well, what's the size of your video?" or your file? And I said, well, it's 82.6 gig. Because my video files are big. That's one thing I have to learn is how I cut those down. But the quality is really good too. So I said, 82.6. And they said, well, there's the problem. iCloud is limited to 50 gig. And I said, well, sorry to tell you, it's actually not, because I've got files up to 102 gig stored on my iCloud, and I load them from my iCloud. And the support person at Apple said, no kidding. So there are a lot of things in this that I think people must run into, that even the developers and the support people don't really know what the capability is. And that surprises me. And maybe if anything's challenging, that's challenging. And that if the support people don't know, where are you going for help? So there is a lot of figuring it out. But one of the next things I'll have to do is jump into this whole format, resolution, the whole 4K 1080p ProRes 422, and you'd understand some of that from your photography. There's just so many options there. I need to take a course.
Okay, so we talked a whole bunch about the last 26 episodes.
Yep.
What's coming up in the next 26? What are you wanting to do? What are your plans?
Okay, so for the next 26 for Speed and Color, we are going to stick with 26. As much as I would love to go to a weekly format, I know that until I get retired, I just will not be able to keep up with it. Every 2 weeks is just about killing me. I know I can't step up to every week. So we are going to stick one more season. We're going to go every 2 weeks. We'll go 26 episodes. So that will be consistent. A little more traveling next year. I guess one thing I've learned, and certainly viewers, listeners can give me some feedback on this. One thing I believe I've learned is that people really enjoy hearing about and seeing custom motorcycles. So episodes where we have taken the bike and talked about the bike, talked around the bike, those have been, for my channel, particularly popular. Now, we don't have any viral stuff yet. We haven't got 1 million views on anything. But there are several of those that have encouraging numbers, good numbers. So that seems to be a format that works. The other thing that I've learned is being more selective about who I work with. And yeah, you'll like this.
Is this why I have to leave?
No, not at all. No. It's so, really when you do these, let me give an example. So the local Harley dealer, I did a couple episodes with them thinking, oh, this would be great, because a local builder that I did a couple episodes with, those episodes did pretty well. And they were entertaining and everything. And the Harley dealer thought, well, we could show off a couple of bikes that we would like to sell and show our skills in the custom area, and it all made sense. So we did a very similar format, did it up, should have been good. The episodes with the Harley dealer pretty much fell flat on their face. They did not achieve at all. Almost a little bit embarrassing. The difference is the local builder really, aren't those flies
I know they're
nasty? And we're in the garage. The local builder promoted from his side the episodes. The Harley dealer, I was shocked, They never even did an Instagram post, a Facebook post. They didn't do anything to say, hey, we're on a podcast, whatever. I guess they thought that I was just so good that magically everybody would watch their stuff. And so from that, what I've learned is it needs to be a cross promotion. You need people who want to work with you. I have no problem doing, making content, doing up an episode, sitting down with somebody and showing what they've done. I can promote that through Speed and Kolor, and I can put the video out there. But if they promote it as well, then we get double or at least double, hopefully even more than that. And I'll give you a really good example of that. Our friend Kurt. Man, oh man, I love that guy. Did that episode with him. Every guy he knows who has a chopper between here and wherever, Texas, knew that he was on that podcast. One of the best view ratings I've had. And there I am calling it a podcast with views, right? Eyes optional. See, the industry has shaped me. They manipulated me into thinking like they do. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Kurt promoted it. It did fantastic. And that's the difference. So going into season 2, I am going to work with people. Queen Street Moto, another perfect example. And Queen Street Moto has been my top content for the last 2 weeks now. It's getting more views than anything else I've done consistently. So going into season 2, I am going to do podcasts with people who want to participate in promoting with me. And that will work for both of us. That's going to drive my numbers, and that's going to drive their numbers. So it's all good. Yeah. Do you want to know what's kind of newish for season 2?
Absolutely, yeah.
So the other thing we're going to do, we're going to stick with this same kind of format. Still love to hear from listeners and viewers what you think, what works for you, what you'd like to see. Because this is an evolution. I'm open to ideas. But I actually, you saw it when you came in today. I just launched the introduction short and reel for BS. We are going to BS, and BS stands for build stuff. So build stuff is going to be they're going to be quick. They're not going to be shorts, but they're probably going to be 10 to 20 minutes. I want to talk about, and not just me, build stuff will be about products, tools, paint, processes, parts, all kinds of stuff. But as well, I want to show off projects, and not just my projects, not just my projects. I want to show off other people's projects. Kurt comes to mind. Oh, dead battery. Hold on. Got to change that. You stay right where you are.
We'll move.
That was really awesome in that, I think we're okay.
I can lead.
Patrick's been asking me about challenges, and there was one right there. So that's the first time that my GoPro has ever shut off from an overheat situation, which I don't understand because it's not real hot in the garage here. We're okay. But anyway, we're getting close to needing to wrap this up anyway. So build stuff. We're going to feature tools and products and parts and processes and cool stuff that we use to build. And we're going to feature some builders and their projects that are being built. I have something on the go, but as I said, I don't want this to be all about me. The boys at Queen Street Moto have some projects coming along. I'm sure there's lots of other stuff. Kurt's going to build something now that his purple chopper is done, Purple Rain. I'm sure there's another one coming here. So there'll be lots of stuff. We're going to try and fit that in. 10 to 20 minute videos, no schedule. I'm just going to do these as I can. I think if I do anything else with a forced schedule, it'll just drive me nuts. So I think I can do this, and if I put 2 out 1 week and then skip a week and whatever happens. So don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because notifications will let you know when there's some BS for you. And that's what we're going to do there. So I'm excited about that for season 2, because it's not going to take me weekly, but it's going to kind of fill in a gap, get us a little more traction. We're going to use some shorts with the BS, and yeah, it'll be fun. So I'm excited about that. I'm looking forward to that.
Very cool. Well, I haven't been texting or whatever when I'm looking at my phone. I've been checking my questions and watching the time.
And that's okay, because for the most part, what I'm going to do is edit you out.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I'll take the camera that's on me and I'll cut you out.
So I'm irrelevant. So I do like some of the ones I've done with you where you always finish with a little bit of an off-the-wall question.
Oh, here we go.
So you're now a professional interviewer. You've done 25 episodes. So if you could interview anybody, anybody in history, anybody living today, anybody who lived in the past, who would it be and why?
Boy, wow. That's hardcore. That's a good one.
I thought of it as I drove up.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I like that. Anyone, even from history. Well, I guess I wouldn't be much into choppers if I didn't say Indian Larry.
Okay.
And I say that because I don't know a ton about him, but I do know that there's a tremendous amount of respect there. There's a lot of people who follow him. So, yeah, I think in this scope, that would be the person.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm done with my questions.
I'm gonna say that this whole interview thing. I never thought I would be a journalist or whatever. I guess I am in some way now. The interview thing is a lot of fun. Putting the questions together. When I do, sometimes winging it is fun too. But I have been thinking a lot lately about something that my dad told me when I was a kid. I think I would have been about 13. I remember standing in the driveway, and he said to me, Sam, he said, if you don't go on to make a difference, to do something significant, then really my life won't have been everything that it could be. And I've toiled over that for a long, long time, in that you could really take that the wrong way. And I think I did for a long time. But I realize now what he may have been saying to me. And, the interviewing's great, but I also think that I've got a voice and I've got some things to share and I've got some things to say. And this platform may be giving me the confidence and the strength to express those things and bring them out. So, that's something I've been thinking about lately, is what my dad said, and that I might have more to say.
Well, that's awesome. Well,
yeah.
I am looking forward to the next 26, and then the 52 after that when you're retired. No pressure. But no, thank you. This was a lot of fun. I really
Well, thank
it
you.
was nice
I
to
appreciate
switch
you doing
roles.
this. And for everybody out there and everybody listening, thank you for hanging around for season 1. It's been great. We're not going anywhere other than ahead. And we are here for season 2, and we're going to have more fun. So again, please subscribe, like, follow us on Instagram, and we love your comments. Any chance you get, send us a question, send us a comment. We're all good with that. So thank you, Patrick, and thank all of you. We will see you again soon.
That's it for season 1. Join us for season 2 of Speed and Color. Build safe, ride safe, and be cool.
There you go.
Dude.
Done, man. Thank you.
That was fun.
It's going to be okay.